One of the biggest days on the NBA calendar is here, as it is NBA Draft Day. So today we're going to be breaking down exactly who the Raptors should really be taking with that 13th overall pick and list some possible backups in case that player is gone. Let's get into it. Welcome everybody to Amateur Hour Sports. This is the YouTube channel dedicated to Toronto Raptors content in videos, live streams, and shorts. If you like what you see from today's video and you want to see more content just like it, then make sure you are subscribed to the channel. And if you want to see my first reaction to who the Raptors select at 13th overall, make sure you have that notification bell turned on so you don't miss out on tomorrow's video. But as we always do, either the day before or the day of the NBA draft here on Amateur Hour Sports, I go through my NBA draft wish list, my wish list of players that I want to see the Raptors take with the 13th overall pick. Now, obviously, they can only take one player, but it's a list of players in hierarchy of how much I would want the Raptors to select them in that position. So we will also be revealing who is the number one candidate for the Raptors to take in this position. When it comes to the NBA draft, it can be very subjective. Everybody has different sort of opinions as to exactly what the Raptors need. Everybody has different opinions as to exactly what the upside of a specific player is, but I think the consensus number one guy for the Raptors to take in this spot has been clear for a number of months now. This player has been in the driver's seat as far as many Raptors fans are concerned, and nothing has knocked him out of the position, and thankfully, nothing really seems to be drawing him to go ahead of the Raptors, so my belief is that this player will be available at 13th overall. But why I put so much focus on the NBA draft in general on this channel, I've done so many videos. In fact, I would have done more if I didn't tear some ligaments in my knee on the weekend. I would have done more at the start of the week. But why it's so important here is because the NBA draft can completely change the trajectory of your franchise. Because think about the caliber of players that you can get. Think about even the most recent NBA champion Denver Nuggets. That team wasn't built off of a marquee free agent. That team wasn't built off of a marquee trade. That team was built through the NBA draft, drafting well, developing well. And it was a showcase in that game 5 that the Denver Nuggets beat the Miami Heat. It was a showcase that any team has the capability to replicate that. Any team has the capability of drafting well, developing well, and getting to the pinnacle of sport and getting to that NBA championship. When the Raptors won their championship in 2019, yeah, there was a marquee trade. Yeah, there were some free agent signings, but a lot of it came down to drafting and developing for the players like Pascal Siakam and Fred VanVleet, who were on rookie contracts but were so pivotal to the success of that team. But let's get into the players that I want to discuss for today's video and exactly what order that I have them in from a hierarchy standpoint. So here is my wish list here, much smaller than last year's wish list because we are at 13th overall, so we can really squeeze it down a bit more. But my number one player for the Raptors to take as 13th overall has been and remains Cason Wallace out of the University of Kentucky. Cason Wallace is a 6'4" point guard who is the best perimeter defender in this draft class. Now, it ain't just about the defense. The defense is a great draw, 100%, but it's the stuff on the offensive end as well that makes him such a special player. Has an ability to run the offense, has an ability to score on multiple levels, is a great playmaker. Really, really talented player, multiple ways of affecting the game, really good offensive penetration, and the Raptors right now, it looks like with Gary Trent Jr. picking up that player option, wanting to bring back Jakob Poeltl, there may not be room on this roster for Fred VanVleet as far as the salary cap is concerned. A great opportunity to find your point guard for the future is in this draft class, and I think that's mostly going to be the direction the Raptors go. There's a lot of guards, as you see on the list here, but Cason Wallace remains my number one guy for the Raptors to take in this spot for all the reasons that I have listed here. And guys, I mean, I did a full video on this, but every time I ask about the best players available, who the Raptors should be taking in this spot, the wide consensus from Raptors fans is that Cason Wallace is the guy to take. And even if Cason Wallace isn't your first choice, I don't think you can be unhappy with this selection. This really fits into exactly what the Raptors need and what the Raptors should be looking for. But further on the list, I actually have Gradey Dick in my number 2 spot here. Gradey Dick is one of the few players on this list that I believe won't be available at 13th overall, but there is a definite case that if Orlando passed on him at 11, he could also slip through Oklahoma City and land with the Raptors at 13th overall. Gradey Dick might actually be number 1 on this list if I had more of a confidence that he was going to be available in this spot, but the best shooter in this draft. Great ability to shoot the three ball, great ability to create his own three-point shot off of catch and one dribble situations, whether it's a sidestep, whether it steps in for a long mid-range shot as well. Great transition player, good playmaker, excellent feel for the game, and even though there are some defensive deficiencies, the offensive part of his game is so talented that I think you can look over some of those defensive deficiencies. Also, a player that I'd be extraordinarily happy to get at 13th overall is my number 3 here in Kobe Bufkin, a point guard out of Michigan. Big point guard, really handles the ball well, good playmaker, can score on multiple levels as well. Super talented, super high upside. In the second half of the season with Michigan, this guy was shooting 50, 40, 90, lighting up the stat sheet. This is a point guard who has the potential to be a playmaker, but also be a surefire scorer in this league, and there's a great potential for him as well to shoot up in the lottery, end up maybe around 10 to 12, and maybe miss out on the Raptors, but would be super happy to get this guy in this position. So as far as the players I'd be extremely happy to get, Kobe Bufkin, Gradey Dick, Cason Wallace all fit the bill. The other players in this list, I wouldn't necessarily be as happy. I'd be happy to take these guys, but not quite as happy as the top 3 on this list. Bilal Coulibaly gets onto the list as well. And that might make a lot of Raptors fans kind of roll their eyes, but this is the type of player the Raptors typically go for. A tall, two-way athletic forward, super raw, needs to polish his game quite a bit, isn't exactly NBA ready just yet, but the athleticism and the insane defensive levels that he has makes for a player with tremendous upside. He was a teammate with Victor Wembanyama at the Mets 92 in France, and really wowed people in the playoffs and has shot himself up draft boards as well. He's one of the players I'm most confident won't be available here. Gradey Dick and Bilal Coulibaly look destined to go ahead of the Raptors here. The rest would be a little bit surprising to see go ahead of where the Raptors are going to be, but Coulibaly is making a name for himself and could even go as high as number 9 with the Utah Jazz. Further down the list here, Jalen Hood-Schifino is a player I've covered on this channel, a pick and roll specialist, really big point guard, 6'5", 6'6", with almost a 6'11" wingspan. Very talented in the pick and roll, really good mid-range shooting game, really good playmaking out of the pick and roll, and a solid 1v1 defender using his size really well on the other end of the court. Now, all the other parts of his game need to polish up. The shooting needs to be more consistent from 3. It's not horrible, but needs to be more consistent, and overall, there's a lot of upside in this player. I can see the Raptors taking a stab on him. Jordan Hawkins, next one, is the best movement shooter in this draft. This is if you want to draft specifically a person who has a ceiling of an elite role player. Like, he doesn't have a crazy star ceiling, but this is a guy who just is dynamic at shooting the 3 ball. Easily the best movement shooter in this draft, coming off of dribble handoffs, coming off of those weak side screens, coming off of even just getting himself open, running off ball, hitting a 3, and the catch and shoot 3, I mean, that's not a problem either. Super athletic as well, maybe can develop into somebody who finishes at the rim quite well, but if you want your 5th man for your offense, if you want a great 6th or 7th man, he trends very well from an upside standpoint to get into those spots. So if you want a role player, Hawkins could be interesting here, though I think he will slip out of the draft lottery. Next one up is Keyonte George. A lot of people were fans of him. I was a big fan of him until I did a bit more investigation into his game. A little bit too inefficient for me, a little bit too dominant with the mid-range game without having too much else in his bag. I don't think there's enough rim pressure here, but big-time shot maker. And because he's a big-time shot maker and does have the potential to be a multi-level scorer, this is another very interesting one for the Raptors to consider at 13th overall. And there are many analysts who believe Keyonte George is destined to land at 13 with the Raptors. A lot of mock drafts, though, in the recent week have had George slip in quite far out of the lottery, so we'll see exactly what's going to happen there. I wouldn't say I'm surprised to see him fall that much because I've fallen in out of love with the player, but I still like him for the Raptors to take him at 13th overall. But ultimately, what I want to see from the draft today, I want to see a guard taken. Look, if like somebody slips out of the top 10 that should have been there, like, you know, if Jarris Walker slips, if somehow Cam Whitmore slips, Taylor Hendricks, well, maybe not Taylor Hendricks, but if a forward slips out, then maybe we consider that. Obviously, it's talent that is predominantly prioritized over the fit, but I think there's an opportunity to get a super talented player who also fits with this team, and I think finding a point guard would be a very necessary step for the Raptors here. We've been so dry in the point guard position lately, only having Fred VanVleet, having to play him this exorbitant amount of minutes, having to play him 38 minutes per game because we don't trust our backup guards. here is your opportunity to find a point guard for the future. The 13th pick, it's not as good of a pick as it could have been, but there's still the great chance here to find an excellent point guard. And I believe Cason Wallace fits that bill. I believe Kobe Bufkin fits that bill. And even if you don't want a point guard, there's still a chance to find a great guard like Gradey Dick, a massive shooting guard. So great opportunity here for the Raptors. I think there's a lot of ways they can get this one right, but to really nail this one for me, to really get me excited, one of those top 3 that I have on my list would be amazing to end up in a Toronto Raptors uniform. I'm super pumped for the draft. This is one of my favorite days of the year. I'm going to be streaming live on this channel right after the 10th pick is made. I'm going to go live here on Amateur Hour Sports to live react to exactly who the Raptors take at 13th overall. So make sure you're there, and to know exactly when I am going live, since it's right after the 10th overall pick, make sure you have that notification bell turned on and subscribe to the channel. You can help me on my road to 15,000 subscribers, and make sure you drop a like on this video if you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts and opinions and comments down below about who you want the Raptors to take at 13th overall, and I'll see you again either tonight or tomorrow for a video reacting to the selection.